Mr. Smith, Miss Smith, I am very sorry. Accidentally blew up your lovely kitchen. The little girl scratched her smudged hair, revealing an embarrassed expression. Ms. Jane Smith was going to explode. She not only yelled at the protagonist, but also grabbed her tightly. Barabara said a lot. Because the speed of speech was too fast. Our protagonist couldn't understand the words, which made us the main character is terrified. John Smith was unusually calm. He pushed Ms. Jane away, sat down on the burnt carpet with earnestness, and stroked the little girl's brown hair. The girl also sat down. It seems our home is too dangerous for you. Sorry, Daisy. We may have to send you back to the orphanage. Little Daisy pouted. Well, Mr. Smith, my fault. He yelled at Ms. Smith on the other side of the wall. I'm sorry, Ms. Smith. Then he whispered, it's not my fault. So I'm coming back. On the opposite side of the voice, Daisy Johnson's friend in the orphanage, Curry. She looks like Caucasian, but Asian features are obvious, but the most obvious features are 3 points. She was looking at the big guy in front of her with a look of Godzilla, her eyes were wide and round. Do you know what you did, my eldest lady? Curry still looked at little Daisy with a shocked face. I was like this at the time. Mr. and Mrs. Smith chose me out of thousands of people. Curry immediately interjected, there are only 12 children in the orphanage. Shut up, do you want a bicycle? Do you want to hear a story? Okay, please start your performance. As he said, Curry picked up the Fat House Happy water at hand and sipped it. I was chosen out of thousands of people, the cutest sister juice, who provided me with the warmth of home, so I decided to help them cook the most memorable dinner in their lives. After speaking a long list of fluent English, little Daisy also felt thirsty, so she took a couple of sips of the happy water beside her to moisten her throat. By the way, unfortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Smith were not at home. I just checked what food in the refrigerator could be processed, and started Daisy's wonderful adventure. Fortunately, they have a chicken in the refrigerator, the kind of raw chicken bought in the convenience store. I just want to make them a wonderful chicken soup for the soul. Stepping on the small bench, I lit the fire. What's the recipe? Angzan listened to Daisy's bizarre adventures. Curry interjected again, are you sure you can make chicken soup? I'm sure. What's the recipe like? Add some poisonous mushrooms and an old shoe heel. Hey, girls, it's time for you to go to bed. The management aunt of the orphanage opened the door and came in. Okay, Ms. McGonagall. I've finished my Coke, and I'm going to brush my teeth and go to bed now. Little Daisy and Aunt McGonagall were left in the room. Mag is an old employee of the orphanage. She looks very old, with many wrinkles on her face and pale skin. She likes silver tabby cats. She often has one by her side. Thank you, Aunt McGonagall, for the Coke you bought us. Aunt McGonagall is very old, kind and thin. She caressed little Daisy. Poor child, little Daisy, you shouldn't be near the kitchen. Little Daisy was enjoying Aunt Mag's touch while sipping happy water, her comfortable eyes narrowed. Don't worry, Aunt McGonagall, the kitchen is not a scourge. One failure does not mean permanent failure. Never. Never. Aunt McGonagall pinched the baby fat little Daisy, and then chatted with Daisy a lot before turning and leaving. Remember to brush your teeth before going to bed. Yes, Aunt Meg. Good Aunt Meg. In this way, only Daisy was left in the room, and her smiling face collapsed in an instant, becoming embarrassing. When transformation knocks on the door, I don't know whether it is luck or misfortune. In short, miserable subatch. The day before, I was still a happy man who ate a happy meal in a fat house and watched 19 Marvel movies, so why did he change his character design? And as soon as he woke up, he would take the blame. He was not shocked by the transformation into a girl, but was frightened by the sea of fire in front of him. What's the matter, Jiu Hao? It's because I didn't practice the simplified boxing method according to Lao Tzu's wishes, so it is necessary to set fire. Then I realized that something was wrong, my feet became smaller, My hands became smaller, and my body also became smaller. Hey, why is your hair getting longer? A series of blows hit this weak heart, and there was a scream. Everyone knows what happened next. Little Daisy was depressed for several days because of this. The so-called host's memory, Daisy doesn't have any at all, she just followed the slightly jerky American spoken language. Curry also comforted Daisy intentionally or unintentionally, but he couldn't cheer Daisy up. Little Daisy spent a few days in a daze like this, but she was out of tune with life in a foreign country. Aunt McGonagall, I want porridge for breakfast. Tofu flour tofu now is the best. I want to eat spicy soy milk is okay. I want to eat crispy fried dough sticks. Dried radish. I want to eat egg fried rice. 555555555. Wow, wow, I really want to have a bite of preserved egg and lean meat porridge. Ms. McGonagall, can you not eat this fragrant and soft bread? Look at this Scottish round-faced fat chicken, he will definitely catch a cold in the rain, not as good as us. It's delicious. Little Daisy spent more than a month without appetite like this, and gradually lost weight. It's not that Daisy is hypocritical, it's just that she went abroad suddenly. As a purebred rabbit, she must not adapt, and I'm just a 7-year-old little Lolita, and I can't control many emotions by myself. Out of good intentions, Aunt McGonagall led a group of demons and ghosts from the orphanage to a spring outing at her own expense. Daisy was completely dumbfounded when she heard the destination. Wang Defa. We will take advantage of the rest day the day after tomorrow to visit the Captain America Memorial. Everyone wants, blah blah blah, The whole person is excited. In fact, little Daisy was careless. She only had a general understanding of the age, and she never paid attention to other things when she knew that it was around 1997. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. Aunt McGonagall is also very strict with TV. Watching TV is also everyone's public time. They all watch cartoons and don't understand any news or current affairs. Although there are huge words of Stark Industries printed in the newspaper, Daisy doesn't know the word. Here, this is embarrassing. Oh, how embarrassing, covering face, sitting on the bus. Little Daisy blushed and sank, lost in thought. In the past 2 days, she really thought about a lot of things. Traveling into the Marvel world, this is something you can do casually. Ordinary people can survive 2 episodes. I wanted to be a fool, so why didn't I give it a chance? There is no way, Daisy has made up for morning exercises in the past 2 days. In her previous life, her family was a martial arts family, and her family's martial arts were passed down from generation to generation. The words are very sloppy, but this is all in a modern society, so it is no different from a fitness trainer. From little Daisy's point of view, maybe her grandparents had better connections, and she was a consultant or something in the army, and others were really not as good as a fitness trainer. Although I have practiced boxing since I was a child, I always feel that it is useless. On weekdays, 5 good young people don't fight and can't pretend to be 13. What's the use of learning martial arts? Can you eat chicken? Can you kill 29? Can Carrie play the whole audience? Can you just open your mouth? But it's different in the Marvel world. If no one has a skill, I'm afraid they won't survive a single page. Snakeskin Hulk, Thor, Claw, Wakanda, they are basically fighting with gods and knowing that one day in the future, half of the people in the world will be turned into ashes, it really hurts. Must change. Reverse the future. Looking up at the sky outside the window, it seems that the day of ashes is tomorrow. Daisy Johnson, this is my name in the Marvel world, even though I'm still just a girl, I don't even have the chance to get hurt when I encounter such a ridiculous thing, but like? How do you feel that you have vaguely heard your own name somewhere? Little Daisy frowned tightly, but couldn't figure out why. The main reason is that Curry sitting next to her is too noisy, and she feels that she has black racial talent. After being pestered by her these days, Daisy feels that her speaking and listening skills have risen to a stage. The minibus drove for more than an hour and finally arrived at the destination Captain America Memorial because Aunt McGonagall couldn't care about a dozen little kids at once. An old man from the Memorial Hall volunteered to help Aunt McGonagall. Help each other, this is the spirit of Captain America. The old man was full of white hair, in good spirits, with a confident smile on his lips. Aunt McGonagall kept thanking the uncle while holding the cat in one hand. The uncle is still very strong, and the little kids want to show their faces on the mirror of Yinjiang Dabing, and the uncle hugs him up and down. It is not too tiring. The smile on his face is keep improving. A large group of people walked up to the Howling Commandos. Because it is now 1997, the Memorial Hall has not been refurbished to look like the one in US Team 2, and there is no recording of Miss Sister's voice to play the US team's deeds in a loop 24 hours a day. The old man cheered up the audience and told the heroic deeds of this team loudly, and the other children and other tourists were taken aback for a while. There are also young people applauding on the side. Little Daisy stopped on the big poster, staring at Captain America in the original costume, Roger Steve. Maybe the captain is still frozen in some corner of the ice, but it is only a matter of time before he is dug out. The crux of Captain America's contradictions cannot be solved. The ability to be supervised because of being uncontrollable and the desire to be free and unwilling to be supervised are too contrary. There is no absolute right or wrong between the two, so the only thing left is to stand in line. But, Captain, is it worth it? He is also a ruthless person. Fly planes, blow up tanks, and punch he. Tell her, have you ever saved the world? No, you just chose to stand in line. Defeated the Red Skull, disintegrated S.H.I.E.L.D., disintegrated the Avengers, and blocked Thanos' hand. Come to think of it, you're not that great. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury. Alexander, Pixar. Entering S.H.I.E.L.D. should be a good choice. S.H.I.E.L.D. possesses a large amount of social resources. Before something happened, S.H.I.E.L.D. was almost walking sideways. Moreover, S.H.I.E.L.D. is directly under the World Security Council, so it can be said to be an official unit. First, set a small goal: S.H.I.E.L.D. Level 10 Security Authority. S.H.I.E.L.D. 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 Nick Fury. Rally Alexander Pixar. Black Widow, M.I.M., Natasha Romanoff Hawkeye, M.I.M., Clinton. Francis. Patton. Phil Coulson. Melinda May. Daisy Johnson. Daisy Johnson? Daisy Johnson. Fuck. 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 Little Daisy suddenly thought of something, and stared fixedly at the reflective place under the platform. Flaxen hair, Asian faces, round big eyes. No way. Daisy Johnson? Shockwave? When I was bored waiting for Women's Federation 2, I looked for Marvel's peripheral TV series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The first general plot connects to the plot of Women's Federation 1. Coulson came back from the dead and formed a 6-member S.H.I.E.L.D. team. Among them is Sky, a master hacker from the Rising Tide organization. The second season continues between US Team 2 and Women's Federation 2. Step by step to reveal Sky's true identity: Chinese-American mixed-race, the alien Daisy Johnson. I'm Daisy Johnson? Inhumans can stimulate their own potential by absorbing Turigen mist, and can activate superpowers. Daisy's superpower is to create vibrations. This ability is very broad, but also very simple and rude. Inhuman superpowers are flawed. Something that passed through the Turigen mists and was so powerful that it grew the feet of an ox. Something that can see the future through the Turigen mists has become ugly. Some through the Turigen mists are able to teleport, but have no eyes. The negative effect of Daisy's superpower vibration is very small, and she will be affected by the vibration effect herself. The appearance has not changed in the slightest. For the entire group of aliens, Daisy's alien genes are almost perfect. So shouldn't my current name be Sky? Little Daisy squatted in an Asian squatting position for a long time, just looking at the metal reflection under the platform, and her little head was masturbating there. Curry yelled at me, shaking his arms, and said to little Daisy, "Be sober." The ensuing blows made Daisy a little confused. It was actually a legendary transformation, but when she first came to this world, she saw a sea of flames. Later, she found out that she was an orphan, and later found that she was in Manchuria. In the world of ghosts and monsters, one day in the future everyone will turn into ashes collectively. Then I find myself still a warrior. Let me take it easy. Curry found that little Daisy couldn't wake up anyway, and everyone was already going to the next area. Regardless of whether Daisy was awake or not, he held her by the collar, turned around and dragged little Daisy away. The picture is very funny. The passers-by on the road automatically stepped aside, looking at this pair of live treasures very funny. First of all, one's alien identity needs to be activated. Without the Turigen crystal, one is actually an ordinary person. Second, how to get Turigen crystals. In the original time and space, the Turigen crystal that allowed Daisy to gain superpowers is now in the warehouse of S.H.I.E.L.D. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. They define it as an obelisk. SSR 084. At the bottom of a city, there is an ancient device that opens the obelisk, so that you can get the baptism of Turigen crystal mist. And you can get superpowers. But the current situation is little Daisy now forgets which city is. How about smashing it after getting the obelisk? Try it and die. Not only the city is a big problem, but how to get the obelisk is also the crux of the problem. Pretending to be some Hydra calling the boss to call the little bald head? In case of failure, just GG directly. After all, he is a level 6 boss of S.H.I.E.L.D. and is also a main member of Hydra, and his ability is not bad. And what if I'm really just an ordinary person? No hidden alien blood? The obelisk is a thing. If it is not touched by a human of alien blood, it will be directly petrified. This is worse than being discovered by Hydra. Annoyed. Then little Daisy finally found herself being dragged around the exhibition area by Curry, and visited 3 exhibition areas. She spread her little hand and clapped both hands. Curry said indifferently, "You are welcome, Daisy." 3Q. Hercules Curry. Because of his agitation, he patted Curry's cute little face with both hands. While making funny faces to embarrass her, he also forced her to do the same, and then Curry returned the same. The group of people laughed and walked around the exhibition and left. When he was leaving, the old man was still talking there, talking about how he interviewed to be an actor in 1995, talking about how much he loved this memorial hall, and saying how good the anti-theft measures in the memorial hall are. Aunt Mag laughed and said she was going to leave. After getting on the bus, she lowered her face, "It's too noisy. Give me your soul. Take this demonic satanic egg and go, conquer the world." From the perspective of the black girl Angela, little Daisy is making an evil deal with an evil oriental witch, maybe because of the influence of what Gargamel saw 2 days ago. With a loud roar, Yazi ran away under Curry's puzzled eyes. Daisy and the old lady both heard the reputation and looked at it, their faces were confused. "What's the situation?" "God knows, ahem, thank you Grandma Lu, I will take out the trash for you in the future." Grandma Lu is an old overseas Chinese in this street. She has lived for a long time and her children are gone. She is alone and looks very old. These days Daisy comes to help her with what she can do. At the same time, Daisy also started her evil plan, which she called Plan Z. For this matter, Daisy has been planning for more than a week, and now the key part has also been obtained. Then the planning begins. "Curry, you go clean the pot, Angela, you go wash the rice. I'll cut the shredded pork into shredded pork." "Damn Angela, what are you doing? The rice is spilled." At this time, Angela was in a daze, so she whispered to Curry, "Daisy, Are you sure? The last time you were Mrs. and Mrs. Smith's kitchen and house burned down. Don't worry, my little Curry, one failure is not a failure. How many times did Edison fail to invent the electric light? I, Daisy, conquered the kitchen even though there are thousands of people, I will go there. Both Curry and Angela's necks shrank at the same time, scared. When the finished product came out, Daisy carefully placed it in front of everyone. The screen turns back to Angela's perspective, a foolish demon king who is ambitious to conquer the world. He holds an indescribable lump of porridge called preserved egg and lean meat in his hand, and whispers charmingly from the corner of his mouth, "Drink it." Angela yelled again, and Yazi ran away again. Curry looked back, looked at Daisy and then at the lump in the bowl in her hand, and said solemnly, "Then what is the price, Daisy vomit?" Curry wanted to interrupt, so Daisy stuffed a spoonful into her mouth. Curry, who had never eaten preserved eggs, spit it out because of the weird taste, and yelled, "It's disgusting, Daisy, you are poisonous. The evaluation is so bad?" Daisy took a sip by herself, "Ugh. Although there are thousands of people, I will go." "Oh my! Daisy! I warned you not to come into the kitchen." Angela, who made a fuss, alarmed Aunt Mag, and Mag ran over in a hurry. In the end, Daisy was punished without pudding for a week. This made Daisy have to reflect on what went wrong, and why the taste of the preserved egg and lean meat porridge she made was so bad. Cross your arms and think for a long time. "Curry, Angela, we have to continue with Plan Z." "Are you sure?" said Curry and fed a mouthful of pudding. "Are you a devil?" Angela said and fed a mouthful of pudding. "I want pudding, I want pudding, I want pudding." Then the three of them wrestled together. There are a lot of children in the orphanage, and there are more bad boys. They bully Angela all the time. Guy Mandac helps her teach those bad boys, and Curry watches from the sidelines. The relationship between the three is very good. Day after day, Daisy often went to Grandma Liu's place, and sometimes sat with her for a while after helping Grandma Liu take out the trash, and communicated in Mandarin. Preserved egg and lean meat porridge, Daisy made it a few times later, and asked Grandma Liu, but unfortunately Grandma Liu's cooking was not delicious. Preserved eggs can only be found in Chinatown. Although Grandma Liu lives in an alley near the orphanage, she still visits Chinatown from time to time, so I asked Grandma Liu to get preserved eggs. The life in the orphanage is very difficult, and Aunt McGonagall also takes good care of Daisy and the orphans. Of course, some people will come to the orphanage for adoption. But Daisy has a history of arson and basically bid farewell to adoption. So when McGonagall only the aunt would touch Daisy and say she is a poor child. In fact, Daisy also understands, if you don't raise it, there are thousands of roads. It's just that if you want to save your life in the future, you have to learn. After returning to the orphanage, Daisy went to school in a nearby public elementary school. The teacher loved to play. Although she was not blatant, she just liked to play with toys, the kind with batteries. She just bullied other children who have not yet enlightened. That day Daisy couldn't bear to watch it any longer, and said to her, "Come on, please switch to the first gear, you're making me read." Daisy has figured it out. In the future, she doesn't need to touch the obelisk, but she must make achievements in a certain aspect. Now that she starts to pay attention to the quantum field, it should be too late. The books from Yingjiang's family are so expensive. With such a heart, I worked hard in the morning, studied in the public school in the morning, studied preserved egg and lean meat porridge in the afternoon, and played with my sisters in the evening. Day by day passed like this. It wasn't long before Daisy figured it out. It was ginger. No ginger. The moment the shredded is dropped, the pot glows golden. Daisy got her wish and drank the preserved egg and lean meat porridge from afar. After trying a few times, the taste finally reached a critical point. Although Aunt Mag was angry, she also bowed to the prestige of the preserved egg and lean meat porridge. Drink the moment the porridge was served, her expression became like a silver tabby cat in her hand. Daisy tried to make preserved egg and lean meat porridge for the children in the welfare institution, and she drank the most curry every time. She often served some for Grandma Lou. In May of 1998, Aunt McGonagall came to Daisy and told Daisy that a big family was coming to adopt a child. You should be good and don't be naughty. Daisy looked at Curry, and Curry shrugged. Another sister, Angela, had been adopted by a big family before Christmas, which made Daisy and Curry a little sad. Later, Angela was never contacted again until the battle in New York in 2011. This is another story. Recently, Daisy is obsessed with studying, and Daisy loves learning. She is reading a book all day long, and a group of kids are having a good time, while Daisy is quietly watching C++ from Zero Foundation to Baldo. Which girl looks very quiet? What's her name? Mr. Parker, her name is Daisy. This girl is a bit of trouble. Blue. The dean said a lot of Daisy's previous convictions, and Aunt McGonagall didn't look very good when she heard it. Ms. Parker really likes this girl. Most families would choose a more lively child, but the Parker couple are just the opposite. They like and hope that the child can be quieter. And the little girl Daisy looks very well behaved after being scared. Should leave a lot of psychological shadows. Ms. Parker prefers Daisy because of the love of women. So it hit it off like this. Reading www.uugonshu.com. Daisy was led to the Parker couple. The Parkers were very friendly and intellectual. Aunt McGonagall on the side looked happy and echoed her words. Daisy was stunned. What's wrong? Why do you have such low standards for raising your daughter? I don't even want to have a criminal record. Although I thought so, I didn't say it out. After a friendly greeting, I bid farewell to the Parker couple. Adopting a child in Yingjiang's family is not only expensive but also troublesome, so Daisy was told that the Parker couple will come back to pick her up next week. The people around kept congratulating, and Curry clapped her hands. But Daisy couldn't be happy. She finally adapted to the environment of the orphanage. The orphanage was her first home in this universe. I miss Curry, Mag and Grandma Lou on the street. But it is very realistic that the Parker couple will be able to help her pay high tuition fees in the future. Because of such dirty thoughts, Daisy blamed herself deeply, and the whole person was very unhappy. At night, she sat on the bed alone, swinging her legs and playing with her hair. Would you like some pudding? Curry, I don't know when she appeared next to Daisy. Amua. Amua. Keep your voice down when you eat. Curry, my best friend is leaving. I'm not happy. When I'm sad I like to eat. Mua. Daisy, do you want pudding? As he spoke, he handed Daisy a box of pudding, and Daisy took the pudding and ate it too. Mua. Mua. That night, Daisy slept with Curry in her arms. This was not the first time she fell asleep with Curry in her arms. Curry had a peculiar smell, and Daisy was very comfortable. And Curry was very cooperative. No matter what tricks Daisy played on the bed, don't make trouble, let her. Daisy loves this little loli. A week later, the Parker couple completed all the formalities and drove their Chevrolet to pick up Daisy in the afternoon. Ms. Parker's name is Mary. She is a white woman who fits the aesthetics of Eagle Sauce. She looks extraordinarily beautiful today. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Daisy followed the Parker couple into the car. The weather was particularly gloomy this day. It seemed that everyone was speechless. In the car, Daisy kept her eyes on Curry outside the car window and waved her hand. Goodbye, little Curry, I hope it won't turn into ashes in the future. Mr. Parker was driving the car, and Ms. Mary sat in the back seat to accompany Daisy in order to show her closeness. She said some nasty things like "We are family now." Daisy did not resist. For her, they are much better than Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Although Mrs. and Mrs. Smith are also nice, they are very fierce on the surface. Like Mr. and Mrs. Parker, they are approachable and gentle. Naturally confident, Daisy is more than happy to take it. I gently hugged Ms. Mary, and then chatted. I made a brief self-introduction. To be a daughter to others, I always have to take the initiative. I said a lot, mainly about my hobbies, but I also kept myself from being too noisy, and handled it just right. Then ask about the situation of the Parker couple. Here Daisy is actually a little bit afraid. Due to the previous adoption experience, Daisy is really afraid of encountering the same thing again. From the original TV, I think that Daisy Johnson was a child very bad. What Daisy doesn't know is that time and space have been broken by her arrival. The family that adopted the black girl Angela in the original time and space chose Daisy. Because she broke a goblet, she was sent back. Later, many families were transferred without end. Daisy grew up alone. I didn't stay in one place for more than 2 years. I taught myself to be a hacker, joined Rising Tide, met Carlson from SHIELD. Time and space. Daisy was very withdrawn before she was 10 years old, and she didn't have friends like Angela and Curry at all. When the Parker couple decided to adopt Daisy, Daisy probably knew something about the Parker couple, not a lot. She probably knew that they were important employees of a certain company or something. The time on the road was not short, and the two of them also kindly introduced their situation to Daisy. Mary also kindly handed Daisy a bottle of water. Of course, Daisy, who is 8 years old, is still very young and complicated. I didn't explain too much. I roughly said that the two of them are experts in the field of biology. They work in the Osborne Group and they are doing well. Puff. Daisy almost spit out a mouthful of water, and said that she was choking. Then she changed the subject and chatted about hobbies and so on. She claimed that she also likes biology, and she is studying and recently. If possible in the future, she would like to specialize in the quantum field. Listen. The Parkers were stunned for a while, and didn't know how to answer the conversation for a while. They were all wondering if this little girl was bluffing people or something. In Daisy's heart, there was a galloping horse, surging, but she also had a doubt. When she was about to ask the Parker couple, something went wrong. Before going out, the weather was gloomy, and there was going to be a lot of rain on the road. For this reason, Aunt McGonagall carefully told Mr. Parker to be careful all the way before leaving. There is a tendency of heavy rain. Mr. Parker is also trying his best to pay attention to the weather problems along the way. Mr. Parker seldom speaks when chatting on the road, and gradually slows down the speed of the car. There is a bad habit of driving here. When chatting with others, you always look at the other person's face. The driver tends to turn his face sideways when talking to the person in the passenger seat, which is too dangerous. Fortunately, Mr. Parker did not. Unfortunately, it seems that the car in front of Daisy and the others seems to have. Anyway, everything happened too fast. It was raining hard. Daisy only hears, "Cheep boom boom." Mr. Parker stopped the car and immediately opened an umbrella to see what happened. Ms. Mary kept Daisy in her arms and asked what happened. Daisy was in the car and couldn't see anything. Ms. Mary also protected Daisy and told her not to get out of the car. After all, she got out of the car with an umbrella. At this time they were on a bridge, and the accident car had already fallen. Mr. Parker immediately returned to his seat and called for help on his mobile phone. The car just fell into the sea, and it didn't sink completely. It was clear that the man in the driver's seat was unconscious. But because of the heavy rain at this time, the sea seemed to be boiling. "Calm down, Parker." The husband did not jump down to save people. There are no fishing boats on the nearby sea, so we can only wait for the arrival of the rescue team. Everything happened too suddenly, and then, a building similar to an offshore oil well exploded in the distance. Ms. Mary shouted, "OMG!" Mr. Parker's eyes wrinkled slightly. "Roxanne Group?" Not long after the rescue arrived, they launched a series of rescue work. Fortunately, a father and daughter in the car were rescued. Both were sent to the emergency room. It seemed that Mr. Parker's younger brother also came to the scene, but because of work reasons, only after a brief greeting with Mr. Parker, Daisy in the car didn't see this uncle in name. A group of people also went to the police station to record a statement, which took a lot of time, and it was already very late when they finally arrived at the Parker couple's home. Ms. Mary watched Daisy close her eyes and fell asleep before leaving the room. Back to her bed, Mr. Parker, I have been reading a book on the bed for a while, asked about Daisy's situation, and continued to read. Mary Parker also said some things in bits and pieces, what happened to Mr. Parker's brother before, and what happened today. The Roxxon Group is a big oil company, but I recently heard from Lida from the marketing department that it seems that Roxxon is undergoing transformation and has already connected with the military. Today's explosion, Roxxon's experiment must be very bad. Richard, it's really getting more and more wrong recently. Have you noticed? The Roxxon Group, the Osborne Group, and the Rand Group are all vying for the arms business. Why? Is Stark going bankrupt? Just talked to Mao Zedong ended the Cold War, why is there still such a large demand for combat military supplies? Mr. Parker pushed his glasses. Mary, no matter why, part of our research and development funds has been castrated again. Osborne's internal core resources are already inclined to the exoskeleton machinery. If we don't make new breakthroughs in the short term, we may be suspended. World peace, and we are experiments. Work is always so oppressive. Who said that? If you can't resist, then enjoy. Mary stretched her waist finally. You reading www.youcanshoe.com calf hook and I still want to have one myself. A pair of small eyes opened in the darkness, looking curiously at everything in the surrounding environment. Then he tightened the quilt on his body. Although it's a bit confusing, but I suddenly became the adopted daughter of Spider-Man's father, and the Parker couple has no children under their knees at this time, so I am the future Spider-Man's sister? The small eyes rolled and narrowed again. Well, kind of proud, he then Daisy heard some small voices. This is the start of building Spider-Man? My CAO, why don't you go to watch? Forget it, let's slip away, let's make a good impression. After thinking about it, she covered her head with a quilt and slept with her head covered. She could have arrived at her new home at 4 p.m., but after tossing around at the police station, Daisy was also extremely sleepy. When she woke up, it was already 9 p.m. Mr. Parker has already gone to work, leaving Mary alone to take care of the little Daisy who just arrived. Daisy is also very busy. On the first day, she arranges her things in the room first, and goes to do it with Mary in the afternoon. A bunch of procedures. I still went through a bunch of formalities the next day, mainly for admissions and the like. But Mr. Parker rested at home the next day. Daisy asked Mr. Parker why he didn't go to work. Mr. Parker said that his company had a show today, a technician does not need to be present. Is this really treating me like a child? Mr. Parker was very kind, knelt down, and patted Daisy's head. Daisy, we talked last night, and now you're in our family, Mary, and I welcome you, so you. At this point, Mr. Parker deliberately swayed his palm twice, with an expression of quickly say on his face, okay Dad. The days with Parker's parents also seemed to pass quickly, in the blink of an eye, a year passed. There were also some small episodes during the period. It was the moment when I just transferred to another school. Little Daisy was blocked into an alley within a week of her first school day, and the 4 vicious elementary school students on the opposite side wanted to find fault. This is the ethos of Yingjiang's family. They have always been conniving towards school bullying incidents. So the school there have been many bullying incidents in China. Several future superheroes in my impression have encountered campus bullying incidents in their childhood, and the most famous one should be Spider-Man. Daisy is naturally happy about such things. Whether it is in the orphanage is still the current home of the Parker couple. Daisy never slackens in her morning exercises every morning. Moves. Kung Fu is done punch by punch. Although it is really embarrassing to practice with elementary school students, it happens to be a challenge of the same level. The challenge of cross-weight is too unrealistic. I don't have much strength, so it is unrealistic. So Daisy didn't quite understand what they said, so she thought about whether it would be better to break one of their arms or both of them. Tisk, it's kind of hard to choose. Hey! Boy! Are you so pitiful that you want to bully girls? A very middle-aged boy ran up to Daisy and blocked Daisy. Daisy took a closer look. The visitor was wearing a red and blue sweater and baggy jeans. At first glance, he looked a bit like a hippie. But the overall look is very sunny. While speaking harshly to the elementary school students in front, he quietly told Daisy to run. Hey, something got in the way. Daisy decided to watch from the sidelines. The boy was very surprised by Daisy's reaction, and the 4 elementary school students on the opposite side picked up a baseball bat and swung it over. The boy who didn't react for a while was forced to take a blow, and immediately returned the punch. Daisy could see that the boy had trained his muscles and his arm line was not bad. One punch knocked one of the elementary school students to the ground, but the other 3 immediately filled his position. There were so many people, and he attacked the lower plate. The boy couldn't stand still and fell to the ground, and the next scene was not very good. Okay, stop, don't slap someone in the face, it hurts your self-esteem. How ugly. The voice was not loud, but the moment the 4 elementary school students looked at Daisy, Daisy had already completed the movement of spinning 360 degrees with the backpack and throwing it vigorously. The next moment, the small backpack with 4 or 5 books hit the faces of 2 elementary school students, knocking them over. He ran forward 2 steps, kicked one person in the chest, kicked him to the ground, and then switched legs, kicked another elementary school student on the head, making him hug Mother Earth. The 2 elementary school students who were knocked over by their school bags at the beginning seemed to be getting up. Daisy stepped on the baseball bat on the ground, and hit their 2 buttocks with a backhand. It's the kind that closes your eyes, it's awesome. It's quite a taste of you won the club, you still work. The 2 of them still wanted to sneak attack. The boy who was knocked down on the ground shouted a reminder. Daisy pointed the baseball bat with her backhand at the sneak attacker, and the momentum instantly shocked the 2 of them. Ran. The morale of the army was broken, and one ran away, and the other 3 elementary school students had no fighting power, and fled one after another. Especially the 2 who were beaten by Daisy on the ground, crawled 5 meters on the ground in a dog crawling style before they dared to stand up and run. Daisy felt bored, chased one symbolically, and threw away the baseball bat in her hand. Pixar's plan is as conservative as ever. The Yuan Wang plan may be far less than expected. Let the World Security Council deal with it. We should concentrate our superior resources to prepare for the future. Ms. Carter, and I just saw an interesting thing and I'm going to change my car's air conditioning system. A large SUV drives by. Victory always brings joy. The boy who looked like a wild dog on the ground gave Daisy 2 big thumbs up, accompanied by a cheap smile. The moment Daisy pulled him up, they exchanged names. My name is Wade, I'm from Hell's Kitchen, what was your kung fu just now? Then Wade Jr. did a Bruce Lee pose. Daisy looked sloppy, and picked up the backpack on the ground. After actual combat, Daisy's combat effectiveness is still remarkable, and she is also thinking about the focus of her training. Just now in a small team battle, I tested my arm and wrist strength and my leg strength, which was much worse than I thought. Kung Fu is like moving goods. The use of Kung Fu is like putting a pulley on the goods, which can achieve twice the result with half the effort. But if there is no foundation at all, it is absolutely impossible, so the strength of Daisy still needs to be trained. The few hits just now, I don't feel good about myself, I should be able to be more lethal. Tong. Master. As soon as Daisy turned around, she saw young Wade kneeling down there. This is Master. Please accept me as an apprentice. Daisy blinked, a little dazed. Master. Please accept me as an apprentice. Young Wade thought that Daisy couldn't understand, so he said it in a very crappy Hong Kong PU. Stop, I can understand English. Are you sure you want to worship me as a teacher? I'm just an 8-year-old kid. I do know a Kung Fu master in Hell's Kitchen, but they look down on me. Master Li only accepts rabbits, and I am also desperate. Believe me, I am a martial arts wizard, and my body is as flexible as a rabbit. Daisy looked around and thought for a while, it's not okay to teach you Kung Fu. I'm not your master, but it's okay to help you with some tips. There's also one thing right now, you need to help me. No problem, master, everything is on me. Go and sell these baseball bats, and we will split the money between 2 pairs and a half. In the next few days, the provocative people in the school became more skinny, and those who were beaten did not tell their families, mainly because they had no face. 4 fat boys surrounded and beat a little girl and was killed. If they went home and said, they would not be beaten twice. Every morning, Daisy will do some small training appropriately, try not to disturb the Parker couple, and after school, she will give him some Kung Fu instructions at the place where she met Wade at the beginning, for 15 minutes, and then tell him about the situation before letting him practice, and make up for the deficiencies the next day. On Saturdays and Sundays, Daisy will look through Mr. Parker's bookcase to see if there are any interesting books. I studied CN several times, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have a computer. The Parker couple had a notebook, but they all had locks. Later, Daisy couldn't bear it, so she came to Mr. Parker with C++ from zero basics to baldness. The language is sincere, and the question is bold. Mr. Parker was startled, reading this book at such a young age. Then, under the watchful eye of Mr. Parker, he started his preliminary C&D journey. Daisy also fell into it amid repeated failures and successes. Some of the pocket money I accumulated on weekdays was also spent on related skill books. Especially the online courses, the money is like water. Later, Parker's father saw that Daisy was very smart, so he asked Parker's mother to teach biology, and then came into contact with a lot of knowledge in other fields, which was not deep. Daisy thought that she was young and her understanding ability would be much worse, but unexpectedly to the surprise of the whole family, Daisy's ability to master knowledge was not bad, and she could accept all the basic teaching. For 2 hours, Daisy begged the Parker couple to teach for a few more hours, and the Parker couple always agreed. He said no in the right words, and even threatened Daisy with a spanking. Okay, you won. I will go to C+. Sometimes Daisy would also ask the Parker couple to take her back to the orphanage to watch Curry, sitting next to Curry on the small chair in the orphanage, with arms next to each other. Wow! Sometimes the two sat there without saying anything, drinking preserved egg and lean meat porridge, and sometimes chatted about something, happily. It is said that Grandma Lu near the orphanage was picked up by her children, and the house was also rented out. Mag the ant is always away recently, but her cat is always running around in the yard. Sometimes there is an autumn wind blowing, sometimes spring waves, sometimes Daisy kisses quietly, and sometimes Curry returns 2 kisses. The father and daughter who were in a car accident that day, heard Parker's father say that they are all right, but the family is bankrupt. Wade fights day by day, and he looks good in fighting. Daisy didn't teach deeply, but only taught a little superficial knowledge and basic fists and kicks, and then seriously explained to him what Kung Fu is. The next day, Wade appeared with a head injury. It is said that he did what he did, from Hell's Kitchen East to Hell's Kitchen West, and then out of Hell's Kitchen West. Talent. For this, Daisy could only give a thumbs up, and had nothing else to say. As for the school, the Parker couple knew about Daisy. Because those elementary school students were embarrassed by others, but after being embarrassed by the little girls, they turned evil. Bian Sheng, backhand punched the embarrassing person, but it made Daisy's reputation famous. Later, some people continued to trouble Daisy, on the playground, in the changing room, in the classroom, in the women's toilet, in the corridor, on the balcony. Anyway, I fought all the places where I could play. Daisy once thought that the school she was in was Lanling. It's not that Daisy is invincible in fighting. Compared with Daisy, students of the same age really only have an advantage in physique, and they also have the advantage during the fight. I have been beaten many times, but I try my best not to hurt my face, at least I can hide it when I go home. Gradually, Daisy, who keeps her ears off the window and only reads mathematics, physics, and chemistry, has inexplicably started to have troubles. People shouted, "Big sister! Don't disturb my study, please!" A big scene. The school knew about it and called the parents. Because of the active learning in the classroom, the grades were all A+, and every time Daisy won hit N, passive defense. The school can only give verbal education. Parker's mother, at the beginning the reaction was extremely violent, but fortunately, she was not sent back to the orphanage. For this reason, Daisy personally made a pot of preserved egg and lean meat porridge as compensation, and the Parker couple forgave her. By the way, the morning exercise can finally be above board, and by the way, Parker's father was also involved. Daisy also taught Parker's simple Tai Chi. Early in the morning, in the yard of my house, I could see two people in pajamas, one big and one small, doing Tai Chi slowly. The picture should not be too harmonious. The tale of the summer of 1999, September 8. The wind blows. A boy named Peter Parker was born. Spider-Man Homecoming domestic release date 9/8. The prelude to the autumn of 1999, on September 27, a typhoon blew. A teenager named Wade is going to serve in the military. Are you really old enough to serve in the military? Daisy. Sucking Wade Ziyajing's popsicle. I'm 19 years old. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. 19 years old. Wade was obviously a little angry. "Oh, I'm sorry, your dress looks like a 14-year-old little girl," Daisy said and took another sip. "Oh 3Q, I'm forever young like a thick big cock," Wade said and bit off Haagen-Dazs. The two sat together on a small bench by the side of the road, watching the cars coming and going. "Wade, you know, this month must be the craziest month for me. My brother was born, and you are going to do military service, ha ha ha." Daisy let out a pig laugh. "Helady, your laughter is so hearty that even the old man next door can hear it clearly." Wade wiped the milk stains on his mouth. "If I was still smoking marijuana when I was 75, I might not be able to hear it. I was 75 last year." The black uncle next door is a real uncle, and he is in good spirits. Daisy and Wade trembled when they heard this, and raised their middle fingers in awe. Uncle Hay left with hearty laughter. "Okay, the farewell ceremony is over, let's go home." Vidra Live. Daisy. "Hey, I won't see you in the future. Is there really no special farewell ceremony? I'm only 9 years old, are you sure? Please. I will definitely chase you after 10 years. But now you really don't have any special farewell rituals, such as the best kung fu when the best people like to leave at the end." "Ah, the strongest kung fu." Daisy turned around and kicked Wade in the middle, and was kicked flying. Daisy seemed to see Wade clutching his crotch in flight, and said, "WTF? Being beaten is the strongest, let's go." Daisy herself was somewhat surprised about kicking Wade away. She didn't know when she had such great strength. Maybe it was because of her surprise, but it was a good thing anyway. Not long after Wade left, Daisy felt a little bored, and bought some broilers, thinking that it might be useful someday. Then two big things happened. One was that the biotechnology developed by the Parker couple made a huge breakthrough and officially became famous. For decay rate algorithm, it was invited to the Swiss International Science and Technology New Year's Conference. The second thing, the curry is missing. It was already a week after Daisy found out about this, and the orphanage called the police the day after curry disappeared, but even the people in the orphanage searched for more than a week without any clues. The police patrol went up. Daisy sat on the old stool, her eyes staring straight. Although the orphanage is also responsible for the loss of a child in the orphanage, such a thing has happened before. Later, the police searched for 2 weeks, but without any progress, they closed the case on the grounds that the child was lost. Daisy was alone in the police. The police lost their temper and accused the police of being irresponsible. Papa Parker helped to dissuade him, but it was useless. Daisy tried to invade the surveillance of the police station, and then compared it with the surveillance footage of the orphanage to investigate the day when Curry went missing. 34 people, 10 people who can be identified and 17 people who behaved suspiciously. Daisy wanted to check one by one the 17 people who could be identified and looked for suspicious behaviors. Maybe they could find clues. Discourage Daisy, forget it, give the doubts to the police and let them investigate. The Parker couple was afraid that the child would be too involved, so they broke into the gangster's lair, and had no eyes for swords and guns. In this way, under the leadership of Parker's father, Daisy handed over the list of suspicious persons compiled by Daisy to the police. The suspicious person handed it in as an excuse, but the content inside was very detailed. Daisy even wrote down everyone's bad past, and even speculated about everyone's motive for committing the crime. Then the information disappeared. During that time, Daisy was very depressed, extremely depressed. Sitting on a chair, she rubbed Aunt Mag's silver tabby cat vigorously. She told Mag that she would come to see her again in the future, but without Curry, Aunt McGonagall would have to retire. This orphanage will not come here often. At some point, an orange cat appeared beside Daisy, meowing cutely there, sniffing around. Daisy believed that the cat would become a cat after a long time, but the orange cat had a necklace around its neck. She scratched the orange cat's head and left. At night, Daisy poked her little face on the edge of Peter's cradle, and Peter smiled at her. Seeing the future little Spider-Man's meaty smile and raising his little hand, Daisy felt that she was in a much better mood. On Christmas, Parker's father gave Daisy a big gift, a computer. Parker's mother ordered luxurious American Chinese food. Daisy almost vomited out the breakfast after eating, and then Daisy rolled her sleeves and started to do it herself. A pot of the most classic preserved egg and lean pork porridge, perfect for Christmas in 1999. As soon as Christmas was over, the whole family rushed to Sweden to attend the Millennium International Science and Technology New Year Conference. There were far more people attending this meeting than Daisy imagined, and the scene was crowded. Fortunately, the Parker and his wife took the special road. Although there were many people, it was not so crowded. Parker's mother regretted bringing the baby here, all the attention is focused on the baby. Daisy also saw the interview car of WHIH and other channels, there may be some media interviews and other activities inside. The ostentation really opened Daisy's eyes. Bodyguards on both sides guarded the bodyguards. Behind the bodyguards, the reporters flashed their cameras. It felt like they were walking on a red carpet. Daisy tidied up her hair unconsciously. The youngest one, but because she was holding a baby, she was taken care of by the reporter. After Parker's mother's unrestrained wrangling, a group of 4 people officially walked into the meeting. It was 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and the meeting officially started at 7 o'clock. The so-called conferences are actually here to show their faces. Experts in various fields not only give themselves and the interest groups behind them a face, but also infinitely exaggerate the infinite potential behind their achievements. According to Parker's father, the Swedish company is reimbursed for the expenses. At that time, Daisy was still holding a lollipop in her mouth, she was dumbfounded, and shouted to the society. There was a sudden scream from behind, and there was a trace of waves in the scream. Everyone looked at the door, and it was the first to catch everyone. Daisy didn't see anything, but heard Donnie's hearty voice. Most of them leaked understanding with a smiling expression. A fat man next to Daisy showed a look of disdain. Tony. An old man with a full beard stepped forward and hugged him first. This should be the current actual controller of Stark Industries, Stark's father's partner, Stan Steele 25. The commercial value of the meeting is self-evident, and many of the bosses behind the doctor are present. It can be seen that Tony does not hate Stan now. Tony came in to say hello, exaggerated. The most extreme time, he came in front of the Parker couple, pointed at Daisy and said with a smile, "This has nothing to do with me." It made everyone around including the Parker couple laugh. Daisy really wanted to give him a discount. Daisy went to the bathroom in a rage. While washing her hands, a beautiful woman came out. Daisy greeted her with a smile. After a while, I left. Daisy noticed that the beautiful woman was walking, and there was something. The murderer immediately retreated, helped Daisy up, made sure that Daisy was fine, and left in a hurry. Back to Parker's father. Parker's father put the admission tag on Daisy, and then took Daisy to meet Osborne, Killian, Octavian, Helen Zhao, Hall, Savig, and so on. I took Parker's mother and little Peter to eat something in the hall. Daisy inspected the exhibition hall again. There were many guards, and some dark whistles were found. Daisy thought this is also normal operation. After all, the room is now half of the world of science. After entering the exhibition hall, after waiting for a while, the technology meeting started. At the beginning, I blew a lot at the old Stark, and also showed the anti-gravity car that was shown in the old Stark period. Then I introduced the main topic, and the big names in the scientific community went up one by one to show their scientific achievements. For example, Maya Hansen, she led the lecture on her own research on the DNA control system of invading organic organisms. Bulow talked about a lot of theoretical things, and there was a lot of applause. Those who understand will naturally understand the truth. But Daisy knows that Maya Hansen's research has long been out of the theoretical level, and the banyan tree in her own room is the first generation of research results, and it is also the famous extremis virus in the future. Daisy is greedy for the extremis virus. The stable extremis virus is no different from Dr. Erskine's super soldier serum, and has certain regenerative properties. Hansen smiled happily, thinking that the research funding for the next 5 years will be settled. The woman with an Asian face below is secretly unhappy. She mainly develops a regenerative cradle dominated by nanotechnology, a multifunctional regenerative architecture system. Helen Zhao from South Korea. Of course, Helen Zhao's speech was still wonderful, but Tony's eyes were fixed on the confident Hansen. Then Parker's father also went up to make a fool of himself, and roughly talked about the biological theory of decay rate algorithm. Like Helen Zhao and Maya Hansen, they only talk about things on the theoretical level, without mentioning the actual content. The following are some famous physicists: Horton Radcliffe, Octavian, Bruce Banner, Franklin Hall, and other speeches, followed by the summary of some old schools, some very old scientists such as, the first generation of Ant-Man Hank Pym, Eric Shaw who devoted his life to the Rosen Bridge theory personality, authority on biophysics, genetics, psychology Charles Xavier. When Daisy saw Professor Charles in a wheelchair, her little head was buzzing. I once asked Parker's father about mutants, but Parker's father didn't know anything about them. There are no mutants in this world. Daisy's online after checking, there is no information about mutants. At that time, she felt relieved. Finally, Tony Stark was the finale, and Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com finished his curtain call angrily. It was already 11 o'clock, and Parker's mother carried little Peter back to the residence to nurse and sleep. Parker's father took Daisy below and waited for the New Year's Eve. After the meeting, the crowd was very crowded. Crazy communication, some for sponsorship, some for pure technical exchanges, and some for chatting about romantic affairs. Daisy benefited a lot from the whole meeting, but at the same time had a lot of questions. Since she is a child, she is not ashamed to ask her subordinates everywhere. Mainly shameless pulling Hansen's skirt here, patting Helen Zhao's thigh over there. If others do this, they may be annoyed, but Daisy is a little girl, a 9-year-old girl. And Daisy's problem is not the really mentally handicapped ones, are all Daisy's outside the blind zone of her own knowledge. Then they asked for their respective contact information. I just got a call from Maya Hansen and heard a harsh voice. Hey, I thought this girl belonged to Dr. Parker. Tony, wearing sunglasses, approached, twisted his head, and pressed the lovely white headband on Daisy's head. Is the little girl lost? After saying that, she stared straight at Maya Hansen, and Daisy had a black line on her forehead. To this day, Downey is the only one who allows herself to wear such a shameful hair accessory. Transformed into Marvel, what is the bottom line? Is the skirt the bottom line? No. The bottom line is the girly hair accessory. Immediately took a photo of the hair ornament on his head, yelled that he didn't like hair accessories, gave him a kick, and immediately drowned in the crowd. Tony Stark's personal bodyguard, Happy, wanted to chase. No, Happy, bigger troubles are here. Daisy's kick to Tony was useless, so Tony didn't care. Instead, he stared at Maya Hansen in front of him. Maya played the paper flute and touched Tony's beard, and the two laughed. Come closer, closer, because the more you think you see, the more you can be deceived. Because, what is seeing, you are seeing, but what you are really doing is trying to explain it, looking for principle. I now accept your most precious gift to me, your attention, and use it to deceive you. In your left cuff. Another one. With that said, Daisy took a sip of watermelon juice. Uncle Banner saw Daisy play a lot of sex, and played magic tricks on Daisy that he was not very good at. Daisy has never seen magic tricks since a certain movie in her last life, and she watched Banner perform magic tricks for herself very patiently. His magic is really unreal, and Daisy can always see through it. It really makes Banner's trigeminal nerve hurt a bit. When Parker's father and Daisy parted from Banner, Banner held his forehead and rubbed the corners of his eyes with difficulty, puffing out, "Farewell, magic." At the same time, in a secret base of SHIELD on Earth, Nick Fury, a level 10 agent of SHIELD, was appointed as the third director of SHIELD. Serious black men stood in front of 3 screens, 2 on the left and 1 on the left. The former 2 directors stood on the screen, and there was a bunch of power information on the middle screen. Under the watchful eyes of the remote video of the 2 former directors, Nick Fury completed the internal power transfer of SHIELD. Tomorrow, Nick Fury will return to Trigger Wing headquarters, officially recognized as the new director of SHIELD in front of all agents. The call ended with the very trusting eyes of Alexander Pierce. Nick Fury, who was already blind in one eye, had a solemn and dignified expression. He sorted out some files and put them on the desktop, and started another remote call. The members of the World Security Council, I won't go into details. At this meeting, I hope that several of you can formally accept the Avengers Plan and Insight Plan that I submitted to the Security Council a week ago. Daisy was in a pretty good mood at the moment, mainly because she was amused by Uncle Banner. When she was happy, she couldn't stop her mouth. She ate a lot. A group of beauties came here. They came to join in the fun, seeing some old business bigwigs, or science bigwigs, just like an otaku seeing Gundam, seeing Hatsune Luotianyi. The meeting pool was boiling. Fireworks were sprinkled all over the sky, and the song was agitated by the taste of the party, and people twisted along with the music. It's the millennium, just be happy. Before you know it, Daisy has already poured a glass of champagne. The scene became more and more chaotic. Naturally, no one saw the little hand reaching for the champagne glass. Someone stopped it. It was the first time Daisy stole champagne. It was the woman Daisy met in the toilet, but it seemed that the other party had changed. Even her makeup couldn't prevent Daisy from recognizing her. The other party hurried away again. Daisy spread her hands. What's my business? Continue to steal champagne. Millennium, everyone is happy. Look, that Justin Hammer from Hammer Military Industry, he's about to throw up. Sitting on a luggage trolley and let his men push it around. It's still full run. I vaguely saw Tony Stark and Maya Hansen leaving the council hall. What does it matter to me? Keep stealing champagne. It seems that I saw a certain wretched figure stalking past again, what does it matter to me? Continue. Champagne. Daisy originally wondered why the scene was getting more and more chaotic, and Parker's father still didn't come to find her. Later, she saw him chatting with her boss and other people in a corner, so Daisy moved to another place and drank a cup. Tribe. Stop. Romanoff. We should talk. Barton, this shouldn't be your tone. You know what I mean, you've been exposed, it's full of shield. Barton, I really should have a good talk. After all, the Black Widow has already assumed a fighting stance. Daisy secretly took 2 glasses, but was stopped. The man who came was a handsome man who looked a bit like a Hungarian. He gracefully stopped Daisy from stealing champagne, and handed her a glass of watermelon juice. Victor? Come here, I found something interesting. Come on, Richards. After a while, the handsome guy was called away. Daisy glanced at her mouth, secretly put the watermelon juice back, took the champagne and ran to a small corner to wait for Papa Parker to find it. Happy Millennium. Not long after, Parker's father found Daisy, who was slightly drunk, and accused Daisy of underage drinking. Of course, he also whispered his condolences later, do you want to eat something? If not, go back to the room and sleep. Daisy is bulging, fuck the SNP, I want to eat dumplings. 55,555. After finishing speaking, he hugged Parker's father and choked up. Parker's father didn't hear what Daisy said clearly, and thought that he just accused him seriously, so he comforted little Daisy. On Maya Hansen's bed, Tony hugged Maya's ketone body and laughed. After laughing, the two looked at each other. The corner of Maya's mouth twitched, but Tony didn't hold back, and laughed again. Again. Maya spoke first seriously. Well, then again. But I've got a little present for you down below that you might want to miss. Again. Ha ha ha. On the stage of the conference hall, the music stopped suddenly, and a band appeared. The world's top band commander, Aaron Silvestri, appeared on the stage. The violent lights suddenly fell to the center of the band, making everyone present just look at his figure. Everyone in the audience saw this scene, causing a lot of commotion, and slowly gathered in front of the stage. The band size is about 3,040 people, each of them is tall and straight, and the overall look is magnificent. Daisy, naturally, I also saw the situation here, and Parker's father slowly approached. Commander Aaron knocked on the podium, turned around, and made a silent movement towards the bottom. The hand holding the baton was raised in the air for a long time, and the whole audience it is quiet now. In an instant, layers of sound waves are like turbulent waves, hitting the shore. It turned out to be the Avengers. Daisy listened to the music, the back of her head felt numb. She unconsciously took a deep breath. Huge waves hit Daisy's body, the waves submerged, and the space carrier slowly rose from the sea. The twilight tilted, and the afterglow fell on an empty meeting room in Trickerv Wing. After the storm, New Mexico, in the circular pit, a quiet rectangular hammer. The Avengers building, the letter of agreement lying on the desk, the noisy asphalt road, the retro-style BB machine flashing red and blue light. Both Natasha and Barton fell to the ground, and they both flipped back and stood up. The Black Widow took the lead in whipping and kicking forward, and Barton was able to block it and fight back. The Avengers originally had 4 candidates, but the list of 4, Fury, lacks proper consideration. I know your concerns, Director. She's on a secret mission for me, and while she can't be fully trusted yet, time will prove her loyalty. She'll be a secret agent of SHIELD. The safety index of these 4 people is not enough for SHIELD to use. Reading www.uuganshu.com is for the Security Council. Especially this rabbit, gather the best core in the world and see if more can be achieved, and see them come together when we need them to fight a battle we cannot resist. Trustees, we are not alone and full of crisis. We need Avengers. grinding scissors and kitchen knife, Rocky Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, Asgard, Battle of New York, Ultron, Hydra, Thanos, and the final eyes converged into 6 colors that kept flashing. Daisy let out a trembling breath slowly. The master's command, the band's shocking performance won a round of applause. Just in time, the 0 o'clock bell rang. A new world is coming. Everyone cheered for the new century and wanted to embrace each other, but Daisy stared blankly at her right hand. In Carter's home, the little girl holds milk and calls Aunt affectionately. In a civilian building in Sokovia, a pair of siblings hid under the bed, sobbing and trembling, with the Stark missile resolutely standing beside them at Pierce's villa. He's promoting himself to the Security Council of the World. Champagne, Hail Hydra! Black Widow kicked Barton away, fell to the bottom of the building, and disappeared into the night. The slovenly man is leaning on a cane, waiting anxiously on the roof, amidst the sound of carnival, and against the backdrop of gorgeous fireworks. Something called hope. Hope is never something extravagant. Daisy's right hand slowly clenched into a fist. 6 colors of fireworks are reflected on the small fist. A new era begins. After returning from Sweden, Daisy worked harder in all aspects of learning and practicing boxing kung fu, and often forced herself with high pressure. For this reason, Parker's father accused Daisy again, and the two had a quarrel at home. The two made a mediation, but more thoughts were spent on little Peter Parker. The Parker couple's love for little Peter is immeasurable. Naturally, Daisy will not be jealous, and she also likes this brother very much. She often follows little Parker crawl on the ground and play. I once tried to call Maya Hansen and Helen Zhao. Of course, this is not a common thing. I often save a lot of unsolvable problems, and then write them down in a notebook at one time, and call them one by one. Out of politeness, Daisy usually asks if the other party is convenient at the beginning of the phone call. Both of them were quite friendly at first, but later Daisy felt that Maya was a little sentimental, and for her line, it turned into talking on the phone in disguise. As for Helen Zhao, she seems to be very busy. She doesn't have much time to communicate with Daisy, and gradually she doesn't talk much about problems. After Parker's father gave Daisy a mobile phone, Daisy would send them messages during the holidays. Blessings and such. In addition to Maya Hansen and Helen Zhao, Daisy also contacted other people who asked for numbers at other meetings, but most of them ignored Daisy, a little kid. Banner did not reject Daisy, and the two we chatted for a long time, but after 2003, Banner said that he would disappear for a while, and then he didn't get through the phone call. Of course, this is a later story. Daisy got lucky when she hacked into the police surveillance system to find Curry. Later, Daisy searched for some small websites on the internet to practice, found some forums for learning network programming, and also met some people who are interested in programming on the internet. Friends who are interested. One of them felt that it was too troublesome to post on the forum, so he wrote a hi program and posted it on the forum to facilitate communication. The screenshot of the software is also attached to the post. The screen is a very simple black chat room interface. Daisy hesitated for a while when she saw the post, feeling that things are not that simple. So after downloading, try to crack it first. It failed the first time. Daisy XI felt something, and immediately took the CD-ROM and reinstalled the computer. After 3 failed attempts, Daisy finally successfully cracked the hi program, and tried to repair the original system, changing the displayed IP address bug to Sky. Entering the chat room, there are only 3 people in it. Looking at the chat history, the first sentence of every newcomer is always, San Lotus floating by Chi. Then the administrator LOL. Daisy thought that since it was an old tradition, she would also say, 3 Lotus floating by Chi, and soon the administrator followed up with LOL. In the next few days, 4 or 5 people came in one after another in the chat room. She chatted with everyone. Of course, some people started to exchange some in-depth questions here, and then some bigwigs helped others answer them. Here it was heaven for Daisy. She asked a lot of questions in the field of network and programming, and expressed her interest in many things. Since Daisy was so active, the atmosphere in the chat room became active. Later, someone boldly applied for everyone to organize an intrusion incident. It was a company named Enron at that time. A group of people wreaked havoc on the company's network server. Some people thought it was too much, and 2 people quit one after another. I also felt that I went too far, so I apologize. For the sake of safety, everyone rewritten a set of programs and renamed it Rising Tide. This time there are not so many things. Daisy's first sentence when she came in: I want to be the boss. White Emperor, lol goo, lol poi, lol. A person with the online name Gem immediately choked back, go away, brat. The position of boss is mine. The administrator at the time kept going lol, went to the theater with 2 other people, and often set fire to Daisy and Gem, which turned into a living script of The Big Bang Theory. At 10 o'clock, Daisy was about to turn off the computer and go to bed. This is also the rule that the Parker family set up for Daisy. After brushing her teeth, Daisy ran to say good night to Parker's mother and Parker's father, and then ran to her own bed. After coughing lightly and covering the quilt, Daisy kept sighing. This should be the original appearance of the Rising Tide organization. The Rising Tide organization in Daisy's memory is a hacker organization for hire. It has been stealing other parties' information for business all the year round. Daisy's joining time should be much earlier than before. This is what Daisy can speculate now. The Rising Tide organization, although it is a small role organization, but Daisy thinks that they must have gone astray, and maybe she can readjust the Rising Tide organization. It's just a hobby club, and we can't talk that far. And it's not hard to see that there are still some people in the team who are disgusted with organized hacking operations. After taking a deep breath and relieving the pressure on her body, Daisy silently fell asleep. After waking up, Daisy felt very uncomfortable, her hair felt like withered grass, and her lower abdomen was heavy. She got up to go to the bathroom, and then shouted for help, "Mom, Mom, Mom!" Parker's mother and Parker's father were awakened at the same time. Parker's mother hurried to the toilet in her pajamas, and little Daisy was blushing. Daisy is 12 years old and has her first period. It's rare that Daisy didn't do morning exercises in the morning. During breakfast, Parker's father encouraged Daisy to come, which was more of a joke, and Daisy made faces. After waiting for little Parker to drink milk, Parker's mother took little Parker to send Daisy went to school. On the way to school, Parker's mother taught Daisy how to be a good girl, how to pay attention to hygiene and so on. The usual high-spirited Daisy is so shy that she can't talk, and the laughing pigeons made little Parker salivate. Since little Parker called her sister a few days ago, I will write this down in a small notebook and wait for someday. Find him again. 5 months ago, Daisy once applied to skip a grade. Now Daisy is surrounded by high school students. She should be a junior high school student at this time. She is a serious high school student, the shortest and smallest in the class. That's her. The study pressure is not very high, but some extracurricular ones. Daisy is obviously struggling. Not long ago, I accidentally made a viscous one in the chemistry laboratory, which can instantly solidify into a tense solid state in the air. It is a liquid that will gradually oxidize and disappear. It is commonly known as spider silk. Daisy roughly recorded the recipe, and simply made a simple launcher device and kept it with her. Daisy will not try to shuttle in the city. Ordinary people use it. The end result of the spider web shooter swinging in the sky is muscle tearing. With the second development, Daisy's throat became a little hoarse, her grew significantly, and the most important thing was that she began to grow hair. So recently, Daisy has been very angry. During the high tide, she chatted with Gem all over the screen, and Gem's language offense gradually became weaker. In class, she often finds people to fight. Others see Daisy as a junior high school student. I don't want to pay attention to her, but Daisy often goes up in a rage and just kicks her, and at night she goes home with a whole body wounded. Sometimes I called Maya to complain to her about the bad things about girls. Maya laughed and chatted with great interest about the daily life of some little girls and the troubles of growing up. Daisy's mood gradually slowed down. To recover. The college entrance examination at Yingjiang's family is not as tense and difficult as at Zhonghua's, so Daisy has a normal heart and occasionally browses game websites. One day, a sudden internet addiction came up, and I thought about the games I had heard of in this era. I probably remember Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne, so Daisy searched no? Staring at the screen with a blank mind, Daisy was speechless for a while. She felt as if some answer burst out of her mouth, but she was like a stutter, unable to spit it out. Saying good night to the Parker couple in this state, Parker's mother saw Daisy's strange state. She was very worried. After Daisy left, she chatted with Parker's father Richard. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. I am very worried about Daisy's recent situation. Did we let her upgrade too quickly, and whether she will have psychological problems because of being out of tune with her classmates? Parker's father kissed Parker's mother on the forehead. Mary, don't you forget that our daughter is going to college in a few months. Maybe she should keep a grade. No, Richard, the girl will hate us. It's just that she's too young and takes things too seriously. I'm afraid she will suffer. Losing? Seriously? Daisy has taught more kids than Kobe. Oh my god, sometimes I wonder if she's a little witch goose. She is a devil's little bitch, God must punish her to let her live in the orphanage. Daisy stared blankly at the small dark room, patted her face and cleared up the contents of her mind. First of all, the current time is 2002. The game industry in the whole country and even the world should be in a state of just enlightenment. Whether it is a standalone game or an online game that is active on the market, for players in the future 21st century, the screen is too rough and the operation is difficult. Too complicated and cumbersome. As far as I know, the mainstream games are now paid games, and the recharge operation is even more troublesome. Secondly, I am copying a copy of World of Warcraft, which is unrealistic. Without a solid foundation of game art and an excellent promotion team, even if you copy the gameplay of World of Warcraft, it will not help. And obviously, Blizzard already has 3 standalone games of Warcraft on the market. Obviously for World of Warcraft the player population of is laying the foundation. Although Daisy has never played World of Warcraft in her previous life, she also knows that the next few years will be the era of World of Warcraft. So how can I make money in the game circle under the influence of World of Warcraft? Where is the money? Regarding the matter of making money in the game field, Daisy seriously thought about it for a while. For this reason, Daisy didn't even take class very well, and she didn't speak so aggressively. For the gameplay of moving the future world, Daisy's first thought is that she must not be blindly optimistic and self-righteous, thinking that just copying a gameplay can kill the quartet in the early 21st century. The first thing Daisy thought of was PUBG Mobile. In this era when CS doesn't even have a version 1.6, shooting-style gunfights are definitely a hit. But the problem also came one after another. First is the screen calculation problem, not to mention the complexity of the game structure. As far as the finished game configuration requirements are concerned, it absolutely kills 99.9% of home computer users. It may be because this game can run in this era, but also to make a new set of computing and processing systems. It is too laborious, and it is definitely not something a small workshop can afford. A small workshop like PUBG can achieve such great success in the short term. In the future, the high-quality online game environment is lacking in the competitiveness of the same games. Moreover, they have not done a good job in the game. Bugs and plugins are flying all over the sky, which proves their weakness in the basic framework of the game. At this time, CS is on fire, and the perfect copy a set of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds gameplay, the difficulty will not be very high. Past PUBG Mobile, and past many future explosive games one after another. Most of the cases were due to lack of funds, insufficient manpower, and the home computer could not carry it. This made Daisy fall into an endless loop of thinking for a while. It is unrealistic to make a classic hit game by one person. Daisy didn't notice this. Sometimes Parker's father would take Daisy to Osborne Building to play. When Parker's colleagues were resting, some of them would chat about EQ, the hottest online game at the moment. Daisy communicated with them, and they thought EQ was fun. Where is the point? A group of old men will happily tell Daisy, a lot of fun of EQ. Daisy sums it up, although the operation is cumbersome, it is fun. Daisy, they think that this is a phenomenon of internet addiction. Maybe it is because online games have not yet reached the era of 100 flowers blooming, so the surge of adrenaline of the players makes them simply think that a game on the computer is just fun, and makes them have intracranial orgasms. Ignore the unreasonable gameplay and the repetition of tasks. Daisy dragged her chin, thinking quietly. It was the third day of the summer vacation, and Daisy tugged on her vest irritably. She put her face on the table and quietly thought about life. There is a beeping sound beside the computer. This is Daisy's suggestion to the administrator, so that people can receive reminders when they send messages. In fact, it is mainly to annoy Jem. When Daisy sends messages to say bad things about it, it can I know. Later, the administrator improved this point, and the reminder can be turned off manually. Because Sky and Jem are too noisy. Daisy clicked on the Rising Tide software, and saw that the manager was furious. 3 lotus roots floating bitchy. Why does this game have such a silly operation? The author made the game upside down. The idea of the game is to use the back door to smoke marijuana. The author who gave birth to her mother in the toilet. Holding the toilet, the dwarf author from Sierra. Jem, what's going on here? Where's Sky, the elementary school monk? Sky, fuck you upstairs, my uncle is in a bad mood today. What happened to the administrator? The administrator's ID is Bei Wang. At this time, he is pouring out the whole story in a series. Bei Wang, EQ is an online game I have been playing. It is very difficult to fight monsters in it. Often it takes a long time for a team to defeat a monster. After you die, you will lose your equipment and experience. You can only follow your memory. Run back to pick it up naked, and you may be killed by monsters on the way. After a certain period of time, the corpse will disappear with the equipment. Jem, I'm playing this game too. At first I couldn't get out of the main city QAQ Bei Wang, that's still a novice. I originally wanted to make a 40 legendary equipment. Among them, the cumbersome materials are simply outrageous. It is acceptable to need to fight 40 evil-eyed monsters. It takes time. Some are more difficult. To find it, you have to cross several continents to find one coordinate. But one of the ingredients, called the Labroy cocktail, is the most difficult to obtain of all the ingredients. According to the guide, this bottle of cocktail may appear on the bottom of a certain ocean, and it will only appear randomly at a certain fixed time. To reach this place, you must take a ship full of hostile races, and wait until the ship arrives, jump down near that location and swim for a few hours. To get on that ship, you have to sneak through a port full of high-level enemies, and to get to that port, you have to go through a dangerous city. Cities will span more than half of the continent. It took me about a month. During the trip, I was sprayed by a red dragon, hacked by a lizardman, saw a sand giant as high as a mountain, and a giant lizard as big as an island. After arriving at that coordinate, I soaked in the sea and followed the waves. Ups and downs, diving in and then floating up, diving in and then floating up again. Reading www.uuganshu.com. I probably tossed about 20 days, and finally got it. But because I was too tired, I accidentally right-clicked on the icon of the cocktail. The system said, "Gilu, you drank this bottle of cocktail, FXXK." Sky and Jem watched the news, kept on LOL. Daisy in front of the computer is even more laughing. This is what Daisy said, the cumbersome aspects of mainstream online games. There are too many unexplained operations, almost ruthless death mechanism, huge game scenes without maps, and more. There are countless map bugs. The other two members also went online one after another. Seeing Bei Wang's experience, they kept laughing lol. Some would also make fun of Bei Wang, why didn't they explode the game company and so on. Bei Wang kept complaining about the current game. All kinds of disadvantages are simply a collection of error reports visible to the naked eye. Question: what are you playing, White Emperor, and why do you want to continue playing this game? The White Emperor, it's fun. LOL LOL goose, 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 goose. When the screen was full of LOL, Daisy finally thought of something. A center of gravity was unstable, and the person and the stool fell out. LOL League of Legends. Although Daisy had considered this game before, she was rejected by Daisy. The reason is that there are still art problems. Although the current version of LOL modeling still looks rough, it took a lot to complete these art foundations. It's been too long. It's not impossible to do these things, but Daisy believes that making a work that can quickly gain popularity in a short period of time is the key now. But now Daisy has a new idea. Those games, it doesn't have to be what the future looks like, but good gameplay can start a game era. Sky, maybe we can make a simple and fun game. Daisy made a simple integration with the extracted materials, and roughly planned and outlined a simple lean battle map. Then there is the problem of the basic framework of the game and the interaction of various parameters. This requires a lot of code work. A few days later, Bei Wang saw that Daisy hadn't moved, so he chatted with her in private. Daisy then described the general outline of the game, and Bei Wang saw that he was a serious internet addict. He expressed his interest and agreed to help Daisy. XI does some code work. Because of this matter, Daisy is busy again at night. She goes to bed very late every day. She yawns during morning exercises and almost pours milk up her nose a few times. Papa Parker naturally asked. The reason is that Daisy has nothing to hide. Parker's parents at home strictly forbid Daisy's behavior. Because the exam is coming soon, they moved the computer out of Daisy's room. Daisy looked helpless, so she had no choice but to wait for the exam. Finish the test. When I was free, Daisy made some small props for self-defense. Because the materials were limited, the scale of power was not very big. Except for the spider silk, other things were so-so, so I gradually lost interest. Ended Maya Hansen's on the phone. I dialed Zhao Helen along the way, and the voice over there was a lowly voice, with a milky voice, speaking fluent Bangsa language. Daisy was very confused because of the language barrier, so she had no choice but to hang up the phone and send a text message to Helen Zhao. Seeing little Parker walking and wrestling, Daisy hurried over to pick him up. The 12-year-old Daisy is definitely stronger than ordinary people now, and it is not difficult to hold the 2-year-old Parker. Fortunately, the wrestling little Parker did not crying, just a little unhappy. Daisy immediately teased him, and the fleshy little face immediately laughed. After more than a month, Daisy finally survived to graduate from high school. Because of her outstanding grades, she received a special invitation from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This made it difficult for the Parker family to accept. It is not difficult for Yingzhong to go to university. The university here in New York, but no one thought that MIT, which has always been strict, would pick little Daisy. Daisy didn't care about this. She was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. Parker's father returned the computer to Daisy. Daisy immediately went online to ask about the situation of the White Emperor. Bei Wang also complained about Daisy, why he hadn't contacted her for so long. Daisy quickly apologized, and then explained to the White Emperor the progress of the game framework on her side. Then Daisy stayed up all night to catch up on the progress. Finally, the finished game was finished before the second week of summer vacation. The game has a high degree of completion, with 10 hero skills, 3 lines, upper and lower field areas, and an imperfect economic construction foundation. DayZ has also completed the function of online battles, and then passed this finished product to Baiwanji for the first time. The two were doing the initial game test. After 3 man-machine tests, DayZ found more than a dozen obvious game bugs, and the White Emperor said that it would be responsible for the bugs. DayZ walked home with Parker's mother and little Parker the next day. I went online and asked about Baiwang's situation. Baiwang said that it was not asleep yet. DayZ looked at the alarm clock next to the bed, PM 03:00, Sky, hey, Internet addict. How do you feel? Did you find any bugs? Baiwang, you are a genius. This game is more fun than any other game in the world. Sky, maybe you can smoke a weed with your coffee right now and it will refresh you. You haven't slept in 26 hours, you know. Baiwang, I sent you the log of more than 50 error reports I found, and I can't change more than 30 of them. I need you to debug the source file data. And I'm going out to eat some chickpeas to raise refreshing. Sky, bye, junkie. When Baiwang went offline, DayZ read Baiwang's diary one by one. DayZ felt that Baiwang was a very serious person. In some subtle places, he marked the source of the error. DayZ finished modifying one by one, and it was already 8 in the evening. Click more. In the middle, Parker's mother asked DayZ to have dinner, and she ate vegetable salad and apple pie. DayZ spat out the mushrooms in the salad because they were raw. Parker's mother accused DayZ of being a picky eater and not eating vegetables. DayZ, of course not, because the mushroom is raw. Eat mushrooms raw, of course. Looks like it's time to show you one day. Rubbing her fleshy face, DayZ stretched her waist and went to take a shower. After returning, she chatted with everyone in the chat room for a while. After 9 o'clock, the White Emperor came back to life. DayZ then sent the repaired version to the White Emperor. White Emperor immediately felt as if he had been beaten to death. While waiting for the transmission, he chatted with DayZ Barabara about his experience in character equipment and skills. Later, DayZ expanded the number of optional characters to 16, and further improved it. The underlying framework of the game and various game data. Give this game to other small partners in Rising Tide for internal testing. It has received unanimous praise. Baiwang even built the basic framework of the chat room into the game, so that every player needs to register a free account. And officially named the game League of Legends. Although the Sparrow is small, it has all the internal organs. The game is a standalone mode, but you can also log into the account, and look for a black room. DayZ is not in a hurry to make a matching system, because she can't afford the server, so the game room consists of a list sequence appear. The White Emperor used the closed beta as an excuse to hang up on the forums he frequented in the early days. DayZ dragged Parker's father into the pit of the League of Legends. Parker's father was shocked for a moment, and quickly gave amway to his colleagues around him. A virus spread in Osborne. The corporate otaku layer spreads. So far, Lingling has finally achieved a small result. It is waiting for fermentation. And the summer vacation has passed for 2 months. DayZ began to pack her things and prepare for her future college life. Parker's parents were sentimental, and Parker's mother cried several times. Parker's mother disliked her because she tried new dishes. Sometimes she followed Parker's mother to the street to buy toys for little Parker, but DayZ always refused to buy toys for herself, so Parker's mother complained that DayZ was not like a child at all. Sometimes DayZ will go to Osborne with Parker's father to have a look. She is still very interested in the decay rate algorithm. The League of Legends. It's more about EQ. The death rate of Osborne's small creatures is still quite high, and the decay rate has been failing. DayZ is not very optimistic about the prospects of the decay rate, because it is transplanting the DNA characteristics of other species into human beings destroys the growth law of its own biological performance, and sooner or later something will happen. Perhaps there will be no significant difference in 1 or 2 generations. If there are too many generations, it will easily cause mutations and can transform human beings. What it will look like, who knows? League of Legends, whose game quality is exploding, has been widely praised in the forum. Because a game is not long, the operation is simple, and there are no repeated brushing tasks, and it is a free game, winning a vote of fans in a short period of time. And the download of the game, the amount was nearly 4,000. The other 3 people in the Rising Tide chat room were not so happy about this, because they didn't participate in this kind of thing. In this regard, Daisy put forward a plan below her. The crude version of League of Legends is just a test of the water. If the effect is significant, Daisy will consider organizing an official version with the people in the group. Daisy will detail the future game framework of League of Legends. I have described it again. It is a MOBA game with a more shocking feeling than the current crude version, more 3D texture and details of replenishment, and more detailed graphics. The blueprint is very well drawn. Reading www. All the friends at uuganshu.com were a little moved, and immediately the White Emperor announced that Sky was the boss gem. What happened? She just had a game idea and became a boss. Sky, lol. Everyone else followed lol. That night, Bei Wang suggested that everyone have a face-to-face meeting. Several people hesitated. In fact, Daisy was also a little timid. Bei Wang volunteered to say that he was studying in Boston. Is there anyone nearby? Daisy thought over and over again, and told the White Emperor that she would go to Boston in a few days. This drew applause from the crowd. Others said they were not free, and Daisy understood that they didn't want to go. Jem said that she really wanted to come over in the field. It's a shame that Sky is a bitch, but it's a pity that he's in Hong Kong, too far away. Following a gorgeous French dinner, Daisy lay on the bed in a trance. The next day, Parker's father accompanied Parker's mother and little Parker on a plane to Boston's Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They reported the report, made the bed, and read a book, had another meal at noon, bid farewell to Parker's parents and little Parker, and had a freshman party at night. Anyway, it was not bad, and the roommate was still a bitch. When it came time to meet the White Emperor, the two chose a day. They made an appointment in a coffee shop near the university. The two agreed that Sky would wear black and Bei Wang would wear white. For the first time, Daisy was somewhat nervous. In order not to embarrass herself, she specially prepared a face towel stick and an electric shock stick in her backpack. For the first time, you need to be somewhat prepared. A period of time passed, and the only person who came to talk to Daisy was the waiter. Daisy was waiting anxiously, and just wanted to leave. A blonde beauty with a protruding appearance and a pure white woolen sweater came over to strike up a conversation hesitantly. Sky.